An American RC-135 reconnaissance aircraft was flying a routine intelligence mission when something unprecedented happened. 5 Chinese fighter jets surrounded it, not just followed it, not just intercepted it, completely surrounded it. The American crew had trained for hostile encounters. They'd dealt with aggressive maneuvers before, but nothing prepared them for what one of those Chinese pilots did next. What happened in the following minutes was so unexpected, so completely out of protocol, that it forced both nations to completely rethink how they interact in one of the world's most dangerous airspaces. And today, you're going to hear the full story that the mainstream media barely covered. Before we dive into what happened that day, you need to understand where this happened and why it matters. The South China Sea is one of the most contested bodies of water on planet Earth. It's roughly the size of the Mediterranean, but unlike the Med, it doesn't belong to any one country. At least, that's what international law says. China disagrees. Over the past decade, China has built artificial islands in the South China Sea, militarized them with radar stations, missile batteries, and airfields, and declared that almost the entire sea belongs to them. They've drawn what they call the 9-dash line on maps, claiming about 90% of the South China Sea as Chinese territory. The problem? 6 other countries also have claims in this region. Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, Taiwan, and Indonesia all say, wait a minute, parts of this belong to us too. And then there's the United States, which doesn't claim any territory there but insists on something called freedom of navigation. Basically, America says international waters are international waters. We can sail and fly wherever we want, and you can't stop us. So here's what happens almost every week. American ships and planes conduct what they call freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea. They deliberately sail through or fly over areas that China claims just to prove a point. And every time they do, the Chinese military responds by sending ships and aircraft to shadow them, harass them, and try to force them to leave. It's a dangerous game. And on May 26, 2023, it almost turned deadly. The RC-135 is not a fighter jet. It's a big, lumbering reconnaissance aircraft based on the old Boeing 707 passenger plane design. It's filled with incredibly sophisticated electronic surveillance equipment and operated by a crew of about 30 people. Its job is simple. Fly along the edges of contested airspace, listen to communications, map radar installations, and gather intelligence on military activities. The RC-135 doesn't carry weapons. It's not there to fight. It's there to watch and listen. On that May morning, the RC-135 call sign Jake 11 took off from Kadena Air Base in Okinawa, Japan. The mission was routine. Fly a pattern along the western edge of the South China Sea, collect signals intelligence, and return home. They'd done it hundreds of times. The crew knew the Chinese would notice them. They always did. Usually, the Chinese would send 1 or 2 fighters to intercept, fly alongside for a while, maybe do some aggressive maneuvers to show they weren't welcome, and then leave. Standard operating procedure. But today would be different. About 2 hours into the mission, as Jake 11 was flying at 25,000 feet, the radar operator noticed something unusual. Multiple fast-moving targets were approaching from the Chinese mainland. Not 1 or 2, 5. The pilot, Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Mitchell, a veteran with over 2,000 flight hours, wasn't immediately worried. More aircraft just meant a bigger show of force. Annoying, but manageable. Then her radio crackled with heavily accented English. American aircraft, you are approaching Chinese territory. Alter your course immediately or face consequences. Mitchell calmly responded with the standard reply. Chinese aircraft, we are operating in international airspace in accordance with international law. We will maintain our course and altitude. That's when things got weird. The 5 Chinese J-11 fighters didn't just intercept the RC-135. They executed what military analysts would later call a tactical box formation. One fighter positioned itself directly ahead of the American plane, one behind, one on each side, and one, this was the dangerous part, positioned itself about 500 feet directly above. The RC-135 was now flying inside a box of Chinese fighters. Mitchell had never seen this before. Neither had anyone on her crew. This wasn't just aggressive flying. This was coordinated, practiced, and clearly intentional. The Chinese had planned this. For several minutes, the 5 fighters maintained their positions. The RC-135 couldn't speed up. It wasn't fast enough. It couldn't climb. There was a fighter above. Any maneuver to break free would risk a mid-air collision. They were trapped. The crew's anxiety level went from concerned to genuinely frightened. One of the electronic warfare officers, a young airman on his first deployment, asked over the internal comms, "Ma'am, what do we do?" Mitchell kept her voice steady. "We maintain course. We don't give them what they want." Because that was clearly the goal. Force the Americans to turn around, to acknowledge Chinese authority in these skies. If Mitchell deviated even slightly, it would be seen as a victory for the Chinese and a defeat for the principle of freedom of navigation. But then, the lead Chinese fighter, the one positioned directly ahead, did something that changed everything. He slowed down, not dramatically. Just enough that the distance between his aircraft and the RC-135 started closing. Slowly, steadily. Mitchell realized what was happening. The Chinese pilot was forcing her to either slow down herself or fly directly into his jet wash, the turbulent air behind a fighter jet that can seriously damage or even destroy a larger aircraft. "He's trying to make us crash," her co-pilot said quietly. And he was right. This is the moment where everyone expected one of 2 things to happen. Option 1, Mitchell would break off, turn around, and retreat. That's what the Chinese wanted, a propaganda victory. Option 2, Mitchell would maintain course, fly into the jet wash, and potentially cause a catastrophic accident that could kill everyone on board and possibly start a war. But Mitchell did neither. Instead, she did something that wasn't in any manual, wasn't part of any training, and completely blindsided the Chinese pilots. She opened an emergency frequency, one that all aircraft in the region monitor, and she started talking, not to the Chinese military command, not making formal protests. She started talking directly to the lead Chinese pilot, personally. "Chinese pilot in the J-11 ahead of us. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 36 years old. I have 2 kids back home. Emma is 7 and Jake just turned 5. There are 31 people on this aircraft. All of them have families, parents, children, people who love them." There was silence on the radio. The Chinese pilot said nothing, but Mitchell kept talking. "I know you're following orders. I respect that. I'm following orders too. My orders are to fly this route in international airspace. Your orders are probably to make me turn around. But here's what I want you to know. If we crash today, if something goes wrong, it won't be remembered as you following orders or me following orders. It'll be remembered as 31 Americans and 1 Chinese pilot who all died for nothing, over water that neither of us actually owns." Still silence. But Mitchell noticed something. The lead Chinese fighter had stopped slowing down. He was maintaining distance now. She kept going. "I'm guessing you're about my age. I'm guessing you have family too, maybe kids. What do you want them to remember about you? That you were brave, that you served your country, or that you died in a pointless accident in the middle of the ocean?" And then something happened that intelligence analysts are still discussing. The lead Chinese pilot responded. In English, "American pilot, I have daughter, 3 years old." The other 4 Chinese fighters maintained their positions, but the lead pilot continued, "I follow orders, but I do not want to die today." Mitchell replied immediately, "Neither do I. So here's what I propose. You've made your point. You've shown that China is serious about these waters. That's going to be in my mission report. That's going to be briefed to my commanders. Message received. How about we all just go home to our families? There was a long pause. The crew of the RC-135 held their breath, and then the lead Chinese pilot said something that probably got him in serious trouble with his commanders later. Understood. We disengage. One by one, the 5 Chinese fighters broke formation. They didn't zoom away dramatically. They just gradually increased their distance, maintained a loose escort for another 10 minutes, and then turned back toward the Chinese mainland. The RC-135 completed its mission and returned safely to Okinawa. When Mitchell landed and debriefed, she expected to be reprimanded for breaking protocol. You're not supposed to have casual conversations with hostile aircraft. You're supposed to follow scripted responses. Instead, something unexpected happened. Her approach was studied, analyzed, and eventually incorporated into new training protocols for all American aircrews operating in contested regions. The military brass realized something important. Sometimes, the most effective weapon isn't advanced technology or superior firepower. It's human connection, reminding the person on the other side that they're a person too. The Chinese military never officially acknowledged the incident, but intelligence reports suggest that the pilot who spoke to Mitchell was quietly reassigned to a training position away from intercept duties. Not as punishment exactly, but to prevent him from going soft on future missions. As for Mitchell, she's still flying missions in the Pacific, and according to those who know her, she carries photos of her kids in her flight suit pocket. Not just because she misses them, but as a reminder of what she said that day, that everyone up there has something worth living for. So what does this incident tell us about the state of tensions in the South China Sea? First, it confirms that things are escalating. The fact that China sent 5 fighters to box in a single reconnaissance plane shows they're willing to take bigger risks, use more aggressive tactics, and push closer to the edge. Second, it reveals something about the limits of military doctrine. Both sides have rules of engagement, protocols, and procedures. But when you're in the moment, when lives are on the line, sometimes those rules aren't enough. Sometimes you need creativity, humanity, and courage to find a way out. Third, it raises a troubling question. What happens next time? Mitchell's approach worked because the Chinese pilot chose to listen, chose to respond, chose to back down. But what if the next pilot doesn't? What if the next encounter involves someone who sees backing down as unacceptable weakness? The South China Sea remains a flashpoint. American planes and ships continue their freedom of navigation operations. Chinese fighters continue to intercept them, and every single encounter carries the risk of accident, miscalculation, or escalation. The military experts I've spoken with all say the same thing. It's not a question of if there will be a serious incident, but when, and whether the people involved in that moment will have the wisdom and courage that Sarah Mitchell showed. The story of 5 Chinese fighters surrounding an American reconnaissance plane should have ended in tragedy or international crisis. Instead, it ended with 2 pilots on opposite sides of a geopolitical divide, choosing to see each other as human beings instead of enemies. It's a powerful reminder that even in our age of high-tech weapons, autonomous drones, and AI-assisted warfare, the most important factor in any conflict is still the human being making the decision. Sarah Mitchell had every right to maintain her course rigidly, follow protocol exactly, and refuse to deviate. The Chinese pilot had every pressure from his commanders to force the Americans out at any cost. But both of them chose something different. They chose to talk, to listen, to find a way where everyone went home alive. That's not weakness, that's not surrender, that's wisdom. And in the skies over the South China Sea, where tensions run high and mistakes can be catastrophic, wisdom might be the most valuable thing we have. If you found this story as compelling as I did, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video. Stories like this need to be told because they remind us that behind every military aircraft, every uniform, every flag, there's a person with a family, with hopes, with a desire to go home safely at the end of the day. What do you think? Did Mitchell make the right call, or should she have stuck to protocol no matter what? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.